debating perhaps some certain Christians and what have you. I like to think that perhaps we're a slightly different breed in terms of our approach or philosophical approach. I don't think he addressed actually what I said, and I think strawman my argument. For example, I'll give you an example. So I never said everything that begins to exist has a cause. I never used that because you could always say, well, how do you know everything does begin to exist? And that would require empirical verification, which is what that's why I never said it in the first place. I merely posited that ultimately, and I don't know where this ultimately is, I just said ultimately there will be a cause. I don't know how old the universe is. Maybe we've been through a couple, 6 or 7 big bangs and big crunches until getting to this point. Of course, the universe is everything that exists. I merely said that at some point, it has to start somewhere, because an infinite regress would mean there would be no change, no creation, nothing. And the same for things like what matter is composed of. I never made an assumption that it is quantum vacuum energy or superstrings, which a lot of scientists now doubt the idea of superstring theory, a bit fantastical. But I just posit those two, like, say whatever you want. The question can always be asked, what are they made out of? What are they made out of? If their attributes come from what they're made out of, for example, then what can they be made out of? Until you get to the point where there must be something that's fundamental, a fundamental substratum that supports all reality's existence. And if it's fundamental and it's necessary, then it wouldn't be limited and it would be self-sufficient, because it wouldn't require anything prior to it or underneath it or further more fundamental than itself. So these are the kind of the arguments I made, but I guess just to kind of reframe this discussion in terms of what I mean by atheism, or why I mentioned the term atheism. You're right, atheism isn't a belief, but I posited that it carries a necessary corollary, something attached to it, which is, if you don't believe in God's existence, not that you may be just, it's just your default. No, if you don't believe in God's existence, that means that your worldview does not require you to posit God to explain things. And I really posited that reality imposes certain problems if you want to keep God out of that discussion, because ultimately you can't explain cause, matter, specificity, or limited and finite things. And my explanation isn't one where I know stuff because I've observed it, is that God is the only explanation to avoid self-contradictions. And that's pretty much it. Like I'm saying, if we take 2 and we add 2, I know that this will equal 4, because taking the premises, the conclusion must follow. So likewise, I know that the premises are the existence of finite things. That's the premises. So I know that eventually at some point, it must follow that there must be a beginning point, a creating point, a start point, and a fundamental substratum that's supporting all things. Even though I don't know where that is, where the boundary of that is, that's my argument.